Let's talk to Poppy Coburn, who's a columnist at Conservative Home. She wrote a piece in CapX recently about how dangerous dogs are really becoming a common problem. Poppy, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. It's one of those things that you sort of notice almost by accident that, you know, we've been covering these dog attack stories. I know there's different kinds, and there was the famous one of the woman who was killed by one of her own dogs that she was walking, you know, down in the southeast. But there do seem to be an awful lot more of these attacks, and an awful lot of them are to do with these American bully breeds, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right in terms of post-pandemic, we've seen a really significant increase in these kind of deadly mauling attacks. But this increase is being driven. I mean, we say dangerous dogs. It's more actually like dangerous dog. It's one specific breed that is really like leading the charge behind these increase in attacks. And that's the, as you've just said, the American bully. And there's a specific variant of this dog called the XL, which is bred specifically for its very large size. It tends to be quite ferocious. Its DNA is almost indistinguishable from a pit bull, which is a banned dog. There was legislation that came in about 20 years ago which banned these dogs because of so many deadly dog attacks that occurred before. Right. So this is essentially a legal loophole which has allowed pit bull dog breeds to be sold and traded legally, and they sell for really, really high prices. I mean, they've exploded in popularity in the last couple of years. 2022, of the 10 fatal dog attacks, 6 of those dogs were Bully XL breeds. So, you know, this is, of the fatal dog attacks this year, they've only been Bully XL breeds. So this is fortunately what's driving this horrendous increase in tragic dog deaths. And
presumably people are making a lot of money breeding these dogs as well then?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, these puppies, the Bully XL puppies, can go from anything from £3,000 upwards.
Wow.
So, yeah. I mean, the breeding of this dog is a massive business. Obviously, again, we know in the pandemic there was a surge in popularity for people buying new puppies. So this was something that drove the prices up. But then after the pandemic, we saw the prices come back down. Not really for bully breeders. These are still incredibly popular dogs. So, yeah, if you're looking to get a bully dog, I mean, you'd be putting yourself back about £3,000 at the very least.
Wow. I mean, that is a lot of money. And is it right that some of these bully dogs have been kind of, I suppose, more in demand because of people seeing them in rap videos and people seeing them being used on YouTube clips and things like that?
Well, they're status dogs. You know, they're designer dogs like so many other dogs. I mean, a cockapoo, I have a cockapoo, and that's a what people call a designer dog. It's bred for, you know, specific traits. For something like a cockapoo, people breed it because it looks a bit like a teddy bear. You know, they're a bit friendly. But for something like a Bully XL, they're bred because they can be quite intimidating looking. I mean, it's important to remember with dogs, these traits that they have, they're not just visual traits. I mean, that they reflect in their behaviour. Because of, I mean, the pit bull, which is the ancestor of the Bully XL, this is a dog that was bred to fight in pits. You know, it was built to maul other dogs. It was built for aggression, not for being a family dog, not for around children. And so it doesn't matter, even if you buy this dog and you want it to be like a lap dog and you want it to look after your, you know, family and protect you, well, it's still got those instincts that are bred into it. I mean, it can't help that. That's just the way it's bred.
And they are very terrifying to look at. I mean, luckily I don't see too many of them outside of London because my dog lives outside of London in Sussex. And, you know, you have sometimes these encounters when you worry that the dog might just get attacked by another dog. I remember walking the dog on the beach once and this guy had his dog on a lead and mine wasn't. And he said, oh, be careful, my dog's not very friendly. And I went, well, why bring him to the beach then?
Put him on a lead
you
then.
know?
Right,
and
exactly.
what, you know, why would you have a dog that wasn't very friendly? It's just beggars belief, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But again, it's people can feel that it's really important to remember in these stories about this particular breed, it is not the fault of the owners in the vast majority of cases. I mean, particularly in the tragic instance you mentioned earlier, the woman who was killed by her own dog. Yeah. That was a Bully XL dog that turned. You know, this is someone that was a dog walker professionally. She's obviously knows what she's doing. You know, she's looked after dogs for her whole life. And then in one moment, suddenly the dog turns, attacks her, and because it's so powerful, because its jaws are so big, because it's got this muscle strength behind it, I mean, tragically, she lost her life. So it's important that, you know, the public are aware that these dogs are not just indistinguishable from a Labrador or a Dachshund. You know, if you get bit by a Chihuahua, well, it might hurt a little bit, but it's probably not going to kill you. If you get bit by one of these Bully XLs, I mean, that can maim you for life. Right.
And well, my understanding as well is if they do bite you, they don't let go. You're they're just on you, right?
Yeah, well, that's what they're bred for. That's what a Bully XL dog's all, supposed to be. That's what pit bulls were.
Yeah.
They were meant to grab onto other dogs for dog fighting.
And presumably the Dangerous Dogs Act, which has never been a very good act anyway, doesn't cover these guys. Because I always remember talking to people even years ago about Dangerous Dogs Act, and it only covers specific breeds. So if it's a crossbreed, it's not covered. If it's a certain type of pit bull, it's not covered. So, I mean, I'm not even sure whether that expansion of that act would make any difference, would it?
Well, it needs to be enforced. I mean, the important thing about the Dangerous Dog Act is that it cut down on breeding. And even if it's going to be difficult to deal with the Bully XL dogs that are already out there, one thing it would do is shut down this kind of breeding operation. And as I've kind of said before, this is very, very lucrative. And that's one way you can at least deal with the surge in popularity of this dog. But you're right. I mean, you need police officers to be going around checking these dogs. People who have Bully XL breeds need to have a licence. They need to have their dog muzzled at all times. If the dog isn't muzzled, then you should give the police powers to be able to, intervene, impound the dog, potentially destroy it if it shows aggressive behaviour. But it just comes down to policing, But it's still a start, it's still a start to update the Dangerous Dogs Act, because otherwise you're not doing anything at all. And unfortunately, we're going to start to see these tragic events occur more frequently.
Exactly. And is there a sort of a geographical map of Britain as to where a lot of these attacks are happening? Is it possible to say, it's more dangerous in some parts of the country than others?
Well, yeah, of course, it's going to depend on where you live and where these dogs are more popular. I mean, they are very popular in London. I see a lot of Bully XL breeds in London, so I'm walking around. And I certainly know whenever I walk my dog back home, it's a bit of a different crowd of dogs. You very rarely see them. They tend to be trendy. I mean, they're also quite trendy in Liverpool. I know this is unfortunately where a really, really horrendous case of a 2-year-old boy who unfortunately was sat alone with the dog, and the dog just turned again and went for him. And this is a family, again, that, known loads of other people that had Bully XL breeds, had been told that these were just safe dogs like any other. It's the owner, not the breed. Well, it's not always the owner. Sometimes it is actually the breed.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it really is a shocking state of affairs. And is anybody kind of campaigning on this? You've written about it. Other people have spoken to me about it. But is anyone sort of actively trying to get the law changed?
I don't actually know if that is something that's really a unified campaign yet, but I think we should really start pushing for some kind of pressure group to really crack down on this, because I think, unfortunately, the Kennel Club has really been letting people down, really been letting dog lovers down, because it's actually campaigning to get rid of pretty much dangerous dog restrictions altogether. When it should be actually be stepping in and saying, look, this is a dog that shows traits of high aggression. If you have children, you certainly should not be bringing this dog into your home, or if you have other dogs, and instead it's actually pushing the government to deregulate the dog breeding industry. So that's very disappointing. Yeah,
absolutely right. Well, we've got some figures here in front of me. Kent and Medway, an awful lot of dog attacks, maybe not always with XLs, but Black Country as well, Coventry, Devon. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. South East London is quite high, and there's just so many of them, and it's horrendous, really.
Yeah, I mean, you can just see from the amount of bites on that list. It's just, it's really low-level crime. But this is like life-changing. If you're bit by one of these dogs, and even if you do get away, or even if, your child is bit or your other dog is bit, this can traumatise you for life. I mean, this can create a phobia of dogs for life.
Oh, absolutely. I can't imagine anything worse if one of your children got attacked. It's just horrendous.
Exactly.
Well, Poppy, listen, really appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed. Poppy's a columnist at Conservative Home. The piece is in CapX, and I'll tweet that out. I think I did tweet out a piece from the Telegraph a little bit earlier on in the day as well.